learning styles. Today, we're looking at how we can support our children using learning styles. And this is an exciting topic for me because as a teacher, I taught elementary school children and also high school and middle school. But I find that doesn't matter what age, if we're aware of how they learn, it's much better for them and for me as well. So today we're going to look at 4 ways people learn. There are others. There are other types of learning styles, but today we'll just look at these 4. Learn to recognize learning styles. Identify your child's preferred style. Gain insights on how to approach homework and maximize learning by using the learning styles. And learn how to communicate to each learning style by using the appropriate language. Now that's the key. Tonight, when you leave, I want you to be able to change your thinking and listen to what the child is saying and how you should respond according to their learning style. How about that? All right, sounds good? Okay. We're gonna move on to the next one. Let's see, it's not moving. Not moving. Okay, now I just want to say every child is born ready to learn, every child. As I said before, every child is a gift. Yet children and adults generally have a preferred style in which they learn best. A child can learn through a combination of styles, but usually there's one learning style he or she favors over the others. Now, if we use all the senses, then that means it's maximum learning. So as parents, what we want to do is make sure we're using all of the senses, the sense of sight, hearing, taste and touch, the gustatory and olfactory, smell. They're usually put together in the kinesthetic, tactile-kinesthetic mode. So all of these things we need to learn to use so that our children can better understand each other. Now, think about it. Do you know what your learning style is? That's the question. So as we go through this, see, we'll ask you how you're doing. Do you feel like this is making sense? And then how we can share it with our children. Question is, what is a learning style? It's the way we take in information and the way we use information that we perceive. The style is the style in which we see, that's our learning style, the style in which we see, hear, feel, or perceive things best, and the way we process or use what we have seen, heard, or feel. See it, hear it, feel it, tactile kinesthetic. Now we know when babies are little, their favorite sense they want to use is what? Putting everything in their mouth, they want to touch it, taste it.
Feeling.
And then some children, you notice they look at the lights a lot, they like to see things. And children sometimes that as you're reading a book, they want, let me see, I can't see. Those children are usually visual, whereas the other one will be happy just hearing you read it. They're auditory. They don't mind if they don't see it. So there are different things that they're going to tell you by their reaction. So we'll go see, hear, feel, or perceive things. Now, where does it come from? Well, some comes with us at birth. The demands of our present situation, what situation we're in, our own past experiences all influence our learning style. Now, when I understand my own learning style, I can accept and appreciate the differences in others and plan ways, let's say it together, to meet my child's homework needs. Okay. Now, the most common learning styles we're looking at tonight: visual, auditory, tactile kinesthetic, and experiential. Visual, what? See it. Auditory, hear. Tactile kinesthetic, feeling it, acting it out, and experiential is experience it. And we all learn maximally when we experience it. When you do it, you're going to remember it. Now, so let's look a bit. Visual learners. Now, my husband is an auditory learner, and I'm a visual learner. So we had to learn to accept each other's different styles and appreciate them as well. So let's look at visual learners, who they are. They approach learning through their eyes. So my husband plays the piano, and if I give him a sheet of music to play, I say, honey, will you play this? I want to see how it sounds. Sound crazy? But I do. I want to see it. I see music. So what do visual learners say? They like to say, guess what I saw? Picture it. It looks like, it talks about these visual things all the time. So think about it when your child starts talking next time. What words are they using? Okay, auditory learners, who they are. They're like tape recorders. Now, my husband is excellent at hearing something and it sticks. With me, if I didn't see it, it's gone. So as a child in a classroom where the teacher is just saying, talking, and they need to see something, guess what? They are losing a lot of information unless they write it down, and they have to be old enough to take notes. But I took lots of notes. And we have to learn as parents how to train our children according to their style. Now, I'm a visual person, right? My mom and I would go out shopping. And in those days, we had to put money in the meter every so many hours. You remember that? Okay. So she would send me back to the car after that hour to put money in the meter. And I'd come back crying because I forgot how to get to the car. Okay, so as a visual learner, my mom learned to say, look, we're passing by this store. This is that street. You see that red building, you this, that, and then I went right back to the car. But see, if I'm not paying attention visually, I'd lose it. So with me and Bill, he loves to listen to talk shows. I don't. I want to see who's talking. So it's okay. He does it all day. I don't care. I said, sure, I have my music on. I'm looking at something. So, but the auditory learner has their minds just record what they hear. So you may wonder, oh, why does this child remember so much and this one doesn't? Probably an auditory learner, and all he needed to do was hear it. What are they going to say to us? The auditory learner may use phrases like, I hear, sounds like, I'd like to hear. These words that tell you what they like to hear. They're auditory. Now, kinesthetic learner, they'll say, they're hands-on people. Physical, mental team up together to help them learn, to give meaning and purpose to their knowledge. These things, a child says, I don't have to do it, mommy, come in, can I do it? And this is what the breakdown is, I think, now in our teaching, especially with virtual. I mean, how can they do something and you're, not even there with them to help them, guide them, show them? My daughter is an art teacher and she has that challenge and doing a great job, but it's a lot of work in order to get that child who needs to do it involved. They may say, oh, it feels like, oh, it rubs me this way. They're using tactile-kinesthetic words. Okay, so I'm going through information, right? Okay, so now what we want to do is, this is experiential learning. They like to be involved. Real life situations. These are children who like to use a combination of all the learning modes to achieve what they need. So they need all of it to come to a point. And sometimes, see, as parents, what we never want to do is to compare our children. Because if one is a visual learner and the other one is an auditory learner, they probably won't be the same. And we can't say, well, why aren't you like Johnny? He heard me say that and he did it. And the other child will feel bad because, well, I needed to hear it again, or it didn't stick mentally in my mind of what I was supposed to do. It's not saying that he's dumber than the child. It's just the way they learn. So how is this? It's coming along okay. Let's look at it. What questions are they going to ask you? They'll say, look what I made. That's the tactile. The visual say, guess what I saw? They come home and tell you about school or happened on the field trip, they're going to tell you what they saw. Now, the same child went on the field trip, but if they're visual, they're going to see more than the one that was auditory. They'll say, guess what I heard? The experiential said, guess what I did? You getting the feel of it? So finding your preferred learning mode. Hold your hand up, just do like this if you think you know what your learning style is. I see a few hands. Think you do, or Connie, maybe?
Miss Neely?
Yes.
Would you like me, if there's a question on the chat, do you want me to hold it until the end or during your discussion?
No, we like the interaction.
Yeah, the interaction is fine.
Awesome, awesome. So, and for all our participants, you can either write your question on the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself and ask the questions, we welcome you. But we do have a question. It says, could you give an example to explain the difference between, is it kinesthetic and experimental learners?
You want an example? As I go through, can I go on to the next part? Because you're going to get those examples. That's the next.
Okay, and this is from one of the participants.
And then if it's still there, it's not cleared up, let me know, okay? All right, so the question is, how can I help? How can I help my child that's struggling with homework? How can I help my child to follow directions and do what I want him to do when I want him to do it? What can I do? So with the visual, you need a lot of things that they can see. Whiteboard, smart boards, charts, draw pictures, diagrams, doodle. I am a doodle. I doodle, I draw all the time because those drawings mean something to me. So it's okay if they scribble a lot. It's okay, let them do it. It helps them retain the information. Write a list. Okay, so if you tell your 6-year-old, well, when you come home today, I want you to do this, this, and this. That's 3 things, right? Well, they might remember it. But how they remember it more is if you ask them, what is it now you're going to remember? See, they said it out loud. And then maybe you have a list. My daughter has a list on her wall for her children to look and see what they're supposed to be doing. That helps the visual child. So if your child is doing their homework and you want them to remember it, what can you do? Think about it. Have them write it out so they can see it. Have them put it on a board and they can look up and see it. Now, this is a story my husband, I like for him to share of how he did this when he was in grad school taking Greek.
I would go to the classroom and pick a seat to sit at. And I would position myself so that when I looked up at the board, this is for me particularly, my eyes would go up and to the left because that's where my memory is. And I would look at the board, and when we prepared for exams, when they announced exams and the room number, I would go to that room to practice the parsing of the language. And I would write it all out on the board, particularly the challenging parts. Nouns, verbs, adjectives, all of that stuff, I'd write it up there. Now, the day of the exam, I make sure I arrive so I can get my preferred seat. The board is clear. There's nothing on the board
anymore.
But as I'm writing out the exam, if I run into a hiccup, all I do is look up and I would see it through my mind on the board because I had written it there. That was a visual reinforcement. And
our brain is that powerful. Once it's up there, it's up there. So a child that may be struggling with a spelling, say, and well, every night I call out his words and he spells them out. And then when he comes in for the test, he fails the test. What is going on? So maybe this child needs to see those words more. Write them up on the board, on some paper. Hold them up so he can see them.
If you're really going to be engaged and involved, you have to change. just to be
But
direct with it, because telling them what you want them to do may not result in that without you changing the way you do it. So if it's a child that has trouble spelling, which you mentioned that, you want to use a white paper. I have a white sheet of paper and preferably red ink. So if they're learning spelling words or math formulas or equations or a list of history or whatever it is, and hold it up so they have to look up. And there's more to this, but
don't have time.
that would help. It's either their right side or their left side that they're going to have as a dominant place to see things. And if you need more information on this, like she said, it takes more than an hour.
Right. Okay. So that's just getting a little example. Now, what happened as a teacher, one time I had a young lady that kept missing her words, and her parents would say, okay, I have her to write them, and we'd spell them out and blah, blah. She still failed the test. And I knew this little girl was very tactile-kinesthetic. She liked to do things, and she especially loved art. So I thought about, clay. I had her to roll out the clay and spell her spelling words, and then have her touch them and feel that C-A-T, whatever the word is. She can feel it and see it and do it. And she got all of her words right from then on. She needed to have a little more to help her remember.
So another thing, if you're going to help children and people in general, need to make sure that you're calm and your breathing is under control. Check your posture, because your posture will make a difference in your presentation. And allow more time to be engaged. But if you're in a hurry and in a rush, we're where we are.
They can feel our attention. So yeah. All right, and with the auditory, I talk about, we have cell phones, right? And we can record. So let them record, let them talk on that cell phone and record themselves. If they're studying for an English test and they have certain sentences they have to write and what history, whatever it is, have them record it on the phone and listen back, because that's how that auditory child is going to remember. So, and have them repeat what you say. If you tell them something, you're not saying, okay, now tell me what I said. That's what he was talking about. It's the attitude. You're not going to say it that way. You're going to say, okay, I told you those 3 things. Can you tell me what they were? And they said, Mom, you're going to do this, this, and this. Okay, very good. But see, they don't know what you're doing. You have put in their brain 2 times what it is they're supposed to do, so that you're reinforcing the auditory. Discussions about whatever the subject is, discuss it. And that helps them remember as they talk about what they learned that day. Don't just say, how was your day? I'm fine. What did you learn? Nothing. Well, let's see. Oh, I bet you did. Think of something and start talking. And when you, takes time, when you interact with them, right, you're learning what they need to hear and what their mood is. Okay. Kinesthetic, get them up moving. And it's okay. Some children just can't sit very long. And so the tactile learners, they prefer acting out things. So they can act out their lessons. And it's okay. You say, okay, what's your homework tonight? Okay, well, Mom, we're supposed to do something for science. Okay, so let them make something. Let them do whatever it is. Let them learn by engaging in all senses. They have trouble sitting down. And what the parents have done, what teachers, the educational system has done, is label them and said they have HDA. What is it?
ADD, ADHD.
Yes, I don't even want to say it.
We all have an attention deficit. All of us. If you don't get the attention you want, when you want it, the way you want it, you act out. Do you follow what I'm saying? That's another topic. So labeling them does not help them, because now you can put that label, oh, he's just boom.
Mm-hmm.
Put him in a category and sadly dismiss him and say he's got a problem, rather than looking for alternative ways to present the information so that they can better learn. That takes time and expertise and skill.
And see, with the virtual learning, how many of you are still in virtual learning? Put your hand up. Everybody's
Yes.
back in? That's good. All right. So with that virtual learning, the tactile kinesthetic child was probably very frustrated. And also the visual, if the teacher didn't use visual aids. See, so as parents, what we're going to have to do is fill in that part that's missing that the teacher should be doing.
If someone has been labeled ADD, having them sit still is more like a punishment because their body, their mind is saying move. And now you jump on them for their behavior about mobility. Their brain is not receptive to learning whatever it is. So that's why I say if we're going to help, we need to change first. And Edwin was going to mention bouncing the ball or something.
Oh yeah, with the bouncing balls, jumping rope, and letting them talking about geography or whatever it is, or spelling that word. Jumping rope, bouncing the ball. If they're learning their times tables, 5 times 5 equals, bounce it. And it's amazing how they enjoy it and they know it before you know it, rather than just having them repeat it over and over and over and over.
So that could be under the category also of experiential, because bouncing the ball while it's physical can also set up an auditory timing thing. So they're incorporating multiple senses and learning this one topic or subject. That's experiential, you doing it.
Okay, so how do we talk to our learners, Bill? This is Bill's expertise. He's a communication specialist. So he looks at how we communicate and how important that is. And on your handout, I gave an example of each of the styles. If the auditory child says a certain thing, how you will respond. If the tactile kinesthetic child says something, how will you respond? If the visual child says something, how will you respond according to these sensory cues? All right.
Okay, the rule in communication and relationship enhancement is one of the rules, one of the concepts rather, is the person who's talking is telling you what to say or how to respond. So if they say, I didn't get it, breathe, not sigh.
You told them 5 times already.
Now, we make a distinction with adults, children, everybody else. If you're frustrated and sigh, you're going to send the wrong message. So if you feel like sighing, excuse yourself to go to the bathroom or do something and let that get taken care of, and then say, yes, now where were we? So if they say, I didn't get it, tell me how you didn't get it. You want to coach them to one of the senses. Just an aside, this is for free. We're not charging for this one. Everything makes sense. We may not agree with it, but we often say that doesn't make any sense because we're probably not tuned in to what sense they're describing, they're highlighting. If you're visual dominant, well, let me say, if you're auditory dominant and the person responds by saying, well, I looked at it and I didn't see it, they'll say, that doesn't make any sense. That's just a language mix up there. You're auditory, they're visual. It'll make sense if you say, you didn't see it? No, and then they're going to elaborate on the visual. So you have to have patience and time to hear and to listen what they're actually saying. Do you follow what I'm saying? Use a kinesthetic term. So if you're used to just responding and reacting without listening to where their problem is, we'll just cross each other in the night and just get frustrated and then do something called punishment, which doesn't enhance learning.
All right, so the question is, how do we respond? What phrases are we going to be listening for?
So if they say, well, it was a horse of a different color, You know, people will say that that's a horse of a different color. Ask for some understanding. What color was the horse? Now, if you say this is just muckety muck, I'm telling you, you're missing out on a treasure that the person is giving you freely, but it's based on how they learn and what their dominant mode is. So I'm going to say, tell me more about the horse and the color. If they say, anybody could plainly see that.
What mode is that?
What mode is that?
Anybody could plainly see that.
Visual, I see eye.
Yep, visual.
Now, how could you respond to that without belittling, berating, fussing, complaining? Anybody could plainly see that. What would be a visual response? Okay, I'll help you out here. Show me. Show me.
Oh,
Show, that's still visual.
Show me, it's visual. Or help me see it. Or I'd like to see it. And if you say, I'm going to tell you one more time,
Tell is what?
you're switching modes, you're switching languages. They're giving you a clue that there's something visual. You're asking for something auditory, and you're speaking foreign languages in essence. Do you connect? This is true with adults, although also, by the way. If you want to do an exercise, get a thesaurus or just look it up on your phone. Get some synonyms for see, some synonyms for hear, and some synonyms for touch, and just make up a list. We had our children do this way back a long time ago. Just find us some synonyms for these different categories. I caught a glimpse of them.
What is that person? What is that? Caught a glimpse of them.
a visual.
Visual.
Mhm.
So you want to know, somebody said, that rings a bell.
What is that?
That's auditory. You're saying it right.
Auditory.
Now you want to respond in auditory. What did it sound like?
So if you go, what did you see?
They
You
say
just
it rings a bell, and you say, what did it see? What did you see? I'm telling you, that's a large part of our frustration with each other as adults, as spouses, as neighbors, as coworkers, as bosses and managers. Listening, communication is the key to rebuilding the relationship. Somebody says, we got in a heated argument. What category is that? What style, what modality? Tactile, kinesthetic. Heated, hot. How long was it hot? How hot was it? Rather than saying, there you go again, always arguing with everybody. If I've told you once, I've told you, and now we get into the berating lecture, and they shut down.
Conversation's over.
Conversation is over. And for children, I'm going to tell you this, they just hijacked you. They just hijacked you because they know where, the children know where our hot buttons are. They know. We can't stop them from pushing the button, but we can rewire our circuits in our brain so that when they push the button, there's a different response. When you change, that is more influential on their changing, but the change you make has to be genuine, not just manipulative.
And not putting down. Like the one on the screen you see on the kinesthetic. If you say, come to grip with it, that's kinesthetic, right? Gripping it. Then it can become an argument if you tell the person, well, you need to come grip with it. And maybe they don't know what that means. So
Or
That's when
grow
you
a thick,
ask a question.
grow a thick skin, get a thick skin, toughen up. All we're doing is berating, belittling them rather than conversing, dialogue. A concept here. Again, this is for free. Our typical response to emotional issues is fight, flight, or freeze. That's what we've learned. We have an option, and that is to talk using specific communication skills. That's a whole nother seminar. Is this helpful? So tune in, listen, look at, get a hold of their style by listening to their modality, because that tells you how to respond. And experiment with it. As you experiment, you're going to probably stumble. That's okay. Just push reset and start over. If you do it quick enough, they'll notice, but they won't know.
And remember to breathe. And because many times, we're busy, we're tired, and we just want them to finish their homework and get it over with. But it will, what we're sharing here will take time, but it becomes easier as you learn how to use it.
And if you have to do it a couple of times, when you're with the new change, then they will get it. And you minimize the time you would have to spend for the next 10 years. By the way, employ these things as early as you can so that by the time they reach puberty and start driving, you'll have a better working relationship with them. So start now. It pays off big investments later. Is that enough of that?
Yes.
Quarter to.
All right. Okay. I wanted to give you this reference. It's SPHERO.com. And he has little bits activities. That's what he calls them, for all ages. And I thought it was really good on the learning styles. And our book, Bill's book is The Gift of Criticism, and my book is Children Are Gifts. So go on Amazon and take a copy. In summary, I say, if we have students struggling during these challenging times, uncover their unique learning style. If their learning style is not being addressed, this student might need coursework uniquely presented to them to effectively absorb the material. And that's what I was telling, especially to those children that have been labeled ADD, they're probably kinesthetic learners. So if they can learn what they need to do, and you can learn what they need to do, it makes it much better, and they can absorb the material that they're supposed to be learning. All of us are unique, geniuses. Hold up your hand. You're a genius. Everybody's a genius. So I'm a genius.
You recognize that you are.
You are. Let's accept who you are and be grateful to be you. And the last thing, warning, as a mom and parent, I say it is important for parents to realize the importance of filtering or monitoring the input that goes into the use of their senses. What our children hear, see, taste, touch, smell will have an effect on their lives and influence their destiny.
Now,
thanks for coming.